The last step of machine stitching that we have to do for the fake fly is the top stitching on the outside. So let me check to make sure that my machine is threaded correctly. Needle up, presser foot up, pull off to the left. Looks good on both sides. Before, when we were doing the center front and the center back seam, I told you that stitching from the curved part to the straight part was really important because it's a lot harder to go into a curve than to come out of a curve. And that's really going to be important here because the curve is even steeper at this point. So I am right now looking at my mark that I used, my marking that I used with thread. Remember, we did this thread basting. And I want to make sure that my needle goes down right about where the center front is together. Okay, so the center front seam. And I want to be as close to being on top of that red thread as I can. So I actually used the hand wheel and turned it towards me to get it down there. And then I'm going to put my presser foot down. And I'm going to take this pin out. Now, don't take your pins out too soon. And the other thing that you want to do is keep things nice and flat as you get started. So I'm actually going to start by stitching 2 stitches forward, 1, 2, and then I'm going to do 2 back stitches, 1, 2, because I want some back stitches right across that edge. And I actually did 3. It's not going to hurt anything at all. I don't want to put back stitching way far over here, but I want it to be across that line. Okay, and now I'm going to start coming forward, and I'm going to go really slow. I'm putting my speed all the way down to 1, and I am across, and I already need to turn. So I'm going to lift my presser foot up. Remember, my needle is down, and I'm going to lift my presser foot up so I can get my line of stitching inside the little slit in my foot. Okay? And I'm going to stop. I'm going really slow around here because this is difficult. The other thing is I want to keep all of this flat, so I'm keeping my hands on top of it away from the edge. Here, I'm going to move out so you can see how I have my hands. And keep them away from the needle, but I want them nice and flat here because I don't want any of this bunching up as we're sewing. All right, so I'm going to do a couple more stitches and then I'm going to readjust. Okay, take my pin out. I'm going to look again to make sure that my thread is in that little slit. I'm going to adjust it just a little bit. These little tiny adjustments will help to keep your curve smooth. If you do a big move, then you're going to have a little jog in it, and then you're going to have to redo it, which is not fun. Never love to pick stitches out and restitch. Okay, so a couple more. Again, I'm trying to keep that line of stitches inside my little foot. Okay, I'm going to stop, and I want to make sure I'm all rearranged. Everything's flat. And I'm actually near the end of the worst part of the curve, but I still don't want to speed up because I really want to make sure that that curve is nice. Okay, I'm going to get that pin out of there. Stop and rearrange it again. And you know, my line isn't perfect. Once I get to the straight part, I'm just going to try to stay straight, even though I've got little tiny bits of wiggles. I'm not going to follow it exactly. I'm going to keep it as parallel to this line of the center front line as I can. And that's because hand stitches are never perfect. Machine stitches often aren't perfect either, but we have a little better chance of being perfect. All right, so I am at the straight now, I believe. Maybe one more stitch, and I'm going to be on the straight. And then I'm just going to follow this up to the top. Okay? And again, I could speed up a little bit here, but I don't like ripping. Okay, so I'm following along. It's a little wiggly right here, but I'm trying to keep my hand right here so I know I'm not letting it move at all. Okay, I'm just going to keep going straight. My hand is staying parallel to the needle as I go. Okay, I'm going to stop. Make sure everything's flat again. We don't want any of this part getting underneath and getting stitched accidentally. That would be so sad. All right. Again, I'm making sure that my seam is parallel to the foot, not twisted at all. So I want it parallel to the foot. I have my hand over here by where the seam is, so I can keep an eye on that as I'm going. Take this pin out. Especially on the curve, don't take your pins out too soon because you're going to end up bunching everything up underneath and then you're going to have to re-stitch things. Okay. I'm going to run out of hand stitches here in a second, and I'm just going to shoot straight up to the top once I get there. Again, keeping everything nice and flat because I don't want anything to wiggle around. And when I get to the top, I'm going to do a couple of back stitches. And we are almost there. Okay, top, we're going to back stitch a couple of stitches. And I can stitch off the end. Needle up, press your foot up, pull off to the left and clip our threads. Remember, cut those threads nice and close. Okay. And one of the things I want to make sure before I move on, let me move the machine slightly out of the way so you can see a little bit better. Sorry about the bump in the camera. I'm looking at the back because I can see how smooth the line is from the back. Okay, see how it's nice and smooth along there. I have a nice smooth curve. And the other thing that I can see is that it's flat. It's not, I don't have a bunch in here at all. I don't have any ripples. And I'm going to go ahead and clip this thread because I don't need this one anymore. And I'm going to clip the one that's on the outside. And the next thing that I'm going to show you how to do is remove our basting stitches, both this line of stitching and this line of stitching. Students often will remember to take this one out, but they often forget to take that one out. And the whole point of having a fake fly is that this little thing will flap up. And so we want to make sure that we take that out.